everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for watching. If you can hear any background noise, it's just my neighbours have the television on quite loud, but I'm hoping it won't be too distracting. I'm here today to talk about film cameras, which is something I get asked lots and lots of questions about, and probably quite predictably I need to begin this video by saying I'm not a professional, I'm not a photographer, I have no formal training, I didn't do it in a degree or anything like that. So it's just my own journey with it basically, but because you guys ask me lots, I'm going to share what I do know. I'm going to split this into sections, so hopefully it's as concise as possible and so you can reference which section is most relevant to you. First of all, I'm going to talk about the cameras that I have had and currently use, section 1. Section 2 is going to be about the film that I use. Section 3 is going to be about developing and scanning and how you get them on your computer basically. So without further ado, the first ever film camera I got was about 4 years ago now, and it was the Olympus Mju-II. I believe it's pronounced Mew, it might be Muji, but it's spelled MJU2, and it's the non-zoom lens one, which is quite an important distinction if you're after one of these. When I got the first one I ever had, it was about £50. Bought it in Manchester, in a camera shop in Manchester. I saw one online the other day for £300. This is such a popular camera because it's such a great point and shoot, which means there's no manual settings on it whatsoever. You can turn the flash on and off, there's a red eye setting, there's a self timer setting, but that really is it. You literally point and shoot and that is it. Whoops, there's no film in it. And yeah, that's it. It's so simple. It's really popular because it does create great images. I'm going to put photos taken on every camera that I'm mentioning on the screen so that you can see as well what you get from them. And this is a 35mm camera as well, which will become clear when I talk about film if that doesn't make sense to you. But yeah, it is an amazing little camera. They're really durable. They fit in your handbag. They, like I said, focus pretty reliably. The built-in flash is really good. Lots of cameras don't have built-in flash, so it's a great option. They've just become so incredibly overinflated. The second one of these I bought, I think, was £100 from a place in Leeds, which is my most recommended camera shop. It's called West Yorkshire Cameras. I'm going to leave a link for them in the description box. Every camera that I have here except one has been purchased through them, and you can message them on Instagram, you can go into store, they have a website, and they're just brilliant. And generally the prices might be a bit cheaper than somewhere you're looking in London, and they're really knowledgeable and really helpful, not intimidating at all if you're really new to the whole thing. But yeah, this is still a camera I recommend to lots of people who want to get started out in film photography. It's just a shame they've become so extortionately expensive. So that was that one. The second camera I bought I don't have here anymore. Let me just sip my coffee. Because I traded it in for the third one I'm going to show you, but it was the Olympus XA. I took some really lovely photos on it. I really liked that camera, and it was fully, it had a manual focus. So this is completely autofocus, like I said, and there's no manual settings. The XA had a manual focus where you line up a ghost image over the actual image that you can see. And when that's lined up, it is focused, and you do so with a little, I'll try and demonstrate on here. There was like a little twizzly thing at the bottom of it here, and you use that. It's quite hard to get your eye into it, and it was very fiddly. And because I was often handing someone the camera to take a photo of me for my blog or Instagram, it was kind of a bit of a ball ache and wasn't anywhere near as convenient as this one was. The only reason I swapped from this one is because the first one I had broke because I drop kicked it across the car park, which I can definitely say they can't withstand that. So yeah, the Olympus XA took some great photos, but just really wasn't convenient. It was really fiddly to use. The actual mechanism of the thing at the bottom was stiff, although it was on the model I had. And yeah, it just wasn't quick and easy at all. I think I paid about £80 for it, but you do get great photos from it, so I do still recommend it, but I didn't have it for that long, maybe for 6 months or something, before I went back to Yorkshire, West Yorkshire Cameras, and traded it in, which is another thing you can do, for the Leica Minilux. This is another point and shoot camera. It has some more manual settings. This is completely dead, but has some more manual settings than the Olympus. So yeah, you can change your f-stop on this as well. There is just a few more settings that you can mess around with. There's still self-timer. There's a built-in flash on it as well. It's a great little camera. Obviously Leica's really famous as well. It's very aesthetically wonderful, this. And they always have really good lenses and things. That's something that you're always guaranteed with Leica. And sorry, let me just show you the wheel at the top so that you can see what I was referring to when I said there's a few more focus please. There's a few more manual settings on this than on the Olympus. But that being said, I always just used it on auto and it did really, really good photos. It was just a really reliable point and shoot. However, these have a really common error in them, and it happened to me when I was on holiday. You just got an error message and it wouldn't work, it wouldn't take any photos. I took it back into West Yorkshire Cameras. They repaired it for me for about £100. This is about I want to say £320 when I bought it, which is a specific sum to have remembered. I'm not sure how much they are now. I will try to find some of each of these cameras to link for you as well. I imagine it's gone up because they just all are going up. So it cost me £100 to fix it, and it worked again for about 6 months and then broke again. The same error message, and I googled it, and this specific error is really common in them and is recurring. So for that reason, I guess you could be lucky and have one that it never does it with, but you equally could get one where every 6 months to a year you have to shell out another £100 to repair it. The good thing, it can be repaired. Often with film cameras, if something breaks, there might be no way to repair them. You have to be prepared for that too. So I will get this repaired again. That's why I've still got it, because it's such a good little camera. And I used it heavily before it broke. I think I was using it, I bought it just as I moved out of Manchester, and I bought my first Contax probably about 9 months after being in London. So I reckon I used this very heavily for a year. And when I say heavily, I mean I should take pictures every single day without fail. And it's in and out my handbag and all sorts. So it did do me well, but yeah, be aware of this error message that apparently is a common thing. But like I said, I will get this fixed at some point because it's such a good little camera. And then from there I upgraded to what I would say is the ultimate point and shoot camera, maybe I'm biased, which is the Contax G2. There is also a Contax G1. I've never had a G1, but I know that it does also really, really great photos. I don't actually know the specific differences between each of them, other than this one just gets so highly recommended by so many different people. But you can get great photos on the G1 as well. It's a very expensive camera. Again, I have two of them. I bought them both in West Yorkshire Cameras. You're not going to pay realistically less than a grand for the body. It comes with a separate flash, so you need to buy the flash separately, which is kind of annoying. I got mine on eBay. The flash was also about £100. This flash is known for being a really, really, really brilliant flash as well. And obviously the camera itself is just beautiful and looks so good. The lenses are interchangeable, so this is currently the 45mm lens on it. I also have the 90 and the 35 and a 28. I would say if you just wanted to buy this and want to get one lens to begin with, the 45 would be a great place to start. It has a lot more manual settings on it, but it's also, again, known for being really great to just shoot on auto with. I've been teaching myself to shoot manually a lot more recently because for years I've relied on just auto settings. So I'm trying to get better and better and better at it, just because I think it's good knowledge for me to have, especially if I'm using cameras at this level. However, that being said, the auto settings are so bloody good, you really can get away with not. I reckon there's loads of people who are like die-hard fans of this camera who are absolutely rolling their eyes into the back of their heads hearing that. But I think it's fair to say it's known for just being a great camera to point and shoot with as well. The focus is off sometimes, but not that regularly, but I would say you get 1 or 2 misfocused photos in every roll that you've shot on auto, as a rule. But as you can see here, these are sort of the settings at the top. So you can change your exposure. Here you can change if you want it on self-timer or a single shot, or it to shoot like a burst of photos. Here you've got your ISO and everything. Just leave that there for a second longer so that you can see it all. You can set it to ISO auto mode, which is what I do have it on as well, so that it just locks the exposure as well. And then on the lenses, each of the individual lenses, you just have the f-stop on there for how open and closed you want the lens. And then at the back is just some settings if you want it on manual focus or autofocus. It's an absolutely brilliant camera. Like, it's so good. I love it so much. I've taken so many photos I love with this camera. I haven't had any issues with it at all. I only bought a second one because this was sort of my livelihood, and everything that I was shooting project wise was on this camera, and so it felt foolish to not have a second one as a backup. And I do use them both sometimes. Like sometimes I'll take each one out with a different lens on, because you can get quite different photos with different lenses. But I've had no issues with them whatsoever. They obviously just look so great as well. It's pretty heavy, but I love the fact it's got a shoulder strap on it. This one is an actual Contax shoulder strap. I've previously just bought them in camera shops. So you just wear it crossbody and have it here on you so you can just take photos, you don't miss photos. They're just, honestly, best cameras. They're so expensive, but I really think they're worth it. The G1 is great as well, and Contax generally is an amazing camera brand. So yes, this is like my pride and joy. And then finally, all the ones I just mentioned there are all 35mm cameras. When I was in Japan recently, I bought myself a medium format 120mm camera. This is the Mamiya 7. I bought it in a place called Tokyo Film Camera, Japan. Oh no, what was it called? Japan Film Camera, Tokyo Camera Shop. Oh gosh, I'll link it in the description box. I've completely forgotten. Anyway, it was in Harajuku and it's an amazing camera shop. And obviously film cameras are known for being a little bit more affordable out in Japan because lots of them are made in Japan. I was trying to remember this the other day. I think the body was 1,700. Overall, I paid £1,900 in the shop. And I bought the lens and lots of film as well. So I can't exactly remember how it was split. I think the body was 1,700, which is a little cheaper than you get in London, but obviously this is still a really, really, really expensive camera. So it's medium format, and when we talk about film in the next section, I will explain that a little bit more. It basically just is a different type of film. You get a different level of detail. The aspect ratio of it's a little bit different as well. And similar to the Olympus XA, this has the ghost image that you line up over the actual image, which you do using the ring on the lens, which is a lot easier to use than the fiddly little thing that I talked about on the Olympus camera. This is a rangefinder camera. Again, I've currently been using it a lot with just the AEL setting, which is auto exposure lock, but you can light read every single time you want to take a photo if you needed to, and then set the exposure accordingly, and then also set the lens accordingly to the f-stop. And then you have to focus manually every time. There's no autofocus on this. All the other ones I've mentioned have autofocus. There is no autofocus on this, so you have to spend the time lining up that ghost image, but then you could have all the other settings. So at the moment, I've just been shooting it with auto exposure lock, changing the f-stop on the lens accordingly, and then manually focusing it. To do the exposure every time, you need to light read and make sure you are doing it correctly. I mean, you could have a guess, but you get it wrong often. And again, I would love to hear people's feedback on this. All the photos that I've taken on this with it on the auto exposure lock setting have been beautiful. There's not been one where the lighting is wrong. So I understand it's good to maybe learn a skill so you get an eye in to understand what the light reading might be, and that is something that I am working on, to just have an understanding of it. But I can't say that I would then necessarily switch to wanting to have to get out a light meter every single time when the auto exposure lock on this is seeming to be really brilliant so far. But do let me know what you think about that. I'm very conscious that maybe there's some passionate photographers out there who are just wanting to leap through the screen and strangle me right now. But yeah, that's how I've been using it, and it's been amazing. I'm so glad I got it. The reason I wanted this one specifically is that while it's big, and let me show you compared to the Contax so you get an idea, it's also very heavy. I can still wear it on my shoulder, so I can still take it out and about in London and just snap away. When I'm traveling, I can have it on my shoulder. So it's a really good one to still capture all the things that I really want to capture. So yes, that concludes part one. Part two, film. So you've heard me reference 35mm and 120. My film of choice is Kodak Portrait. 400 if I'm shooting in London and it's generally quite gloomy. 160 if I was shooting on really bright sunny days and I was on holiday or something. Other ones that I sometimes use, the Ektar 100, which gives you quite saturated colours, which can be great again if you're on holiday. The Fujifilm ones are really nice. They tend to sort of have a more red undertone. Kodak Portrait is known for being really good for portraits because it's really flattering on skin tones, and it tends to have a slightly more yellow undertone. I would say most people I know shoot with Kodak Portrait, but I'm not precious. Sometimes I'll be on holiday and run out of film and I'll get whatever's there. Sometimes it's even Kodak Color Plus or something. You just go for whatever you want, really. You can also have fun with ordering expired film on eBay, which you can get a lot for cheap, and you don't know what the colors are going to do because the film's expired, but that can be quite fun to mess around with. Not if you were shooting something really important, but It's another option to get a lot of film quite cheaply as well. It is going up. Kodak has said they're increasing the prices of film too, so it's getting more and more of an expensive hobby. You can order them on Amazon, you can get them all over in different camera shops. So this is 35mm. Kodak Portrait comes with 36 exposures. Other ones like Kodak Color Plus could sometimes come with 24. So you get 24 or 36 photos, and it's colour film, colour negative film. And yeah, it's just a really popular one. Whereas this, the 120, which goes in the Mamiya, you get 10 photos on. So initially when I started shooting film, what I enjoyed was how much more selective it made me, just having 36 photos. And then again, it's taken it to another level of only having 10. For all of them, I'll just show you with this is just the Olympus. You just open the back of the cameras, and I don't want to fully load this up because I'm not going to shoot it, but you just feed the film over, and then when it's ended, you will either have to rewind it by pressing a button, or it will just automatically, when you take the last picture, go and wind itself back up. And then when you pull it back out, this isn't hanging out, it's just a fully closed up roll of film. Easily done. These ones are a bit more fiddly to load, you have to feed it through a bit more. There's like a spool almost on either side, which you have to move from one side to the other, which is this thing. This thing here, which you move from one side to the next for when you want to load the film and when it's finished. And yeah, you just get a different aspect ratio on each of them. This is kind of, I think this would be 3x4, whereas this would be 4x6 maybe. So this one's a bit more squat basically. But yeah, that's my film of choice. And then we're on to our third and final topic of this video, which is developing. So I had lots of questions saying, how do you get your film photos on the computer? The easiest way is to take it to Snappy Snaps. Some boots still do it, Jessop's maybe. If you're in East London, there's an amazing place called Labyrinth, iCulture, Chan's Photographic. Just Google wherever you are. There's some great ones in LA that I know of. And you take your roll of film when it's all finished and say, scan and develop please. So they'll develop it, so take the film out, do all the chemicals, all the darkroom stuff, and then scan it for you, and they'll email you the scans. Some places, like when I was up north, still put them on a CD, but that isn't as common anymore. So yeah, they email you all the scans, and then you have them there, and you could edit them if you wanted to, you could be happy with the colours. You'll get to know that each place you take things to will have a different, depending on the chemicals they use and how they develop, it will have a slightly different colour to them. So like for instance, Snappy Snaps that I used to go to in Notting Hill would always be quite strong colours with it. Labyrinth on Bethnal Green Road, it has more like a warmth to it. iCulture on Bethnal Green Road, sometimes the blacks look quite green. So you just learn which one you like personally. So you could just use the colours that they give you through the scan and just upload it as is. Like I said, you could edit it on Photoshop and grade it yourself to how you like it. Or the other option, which I know lots of photographers do and I'm trying to get better at, is scanning it yourself. So you would just ask for developing, and then you get the negatives back. You need to buy a specific scanner. I have the Epson V850 Pro, I think it's called. And you can't just use any old scanner. It has to have a glass bed, which all scanners have, but the top has to be glass as well. It can't have the usual white kind of padded bit, which they often have. It has to be glass so that light passes through the negative. I'll link a few different options. There's some, I think the one I've got is quite expensive, but there were some that are a bit more affordable. And then you have a software which comes with your scanner, and it's quite difficult. It's a whole skill in itself. So you can scan it in using just the auto settings, and then you'll get whatever colour's there, but you can also edit as you scan. So you could scan a colour film in black and white using the software that comes with the scanner. Or you can, change the yellows in it, or increase the reds, or whatever you want to do. Change the exposure or the contrast as you scan, which is why all of the scans you get from the different developers will have a slightly different style to them because of however they're scanning as well. Oh, sorry guys, my camera just died. I was just talking about the scanner. So yeah, it's a task that I find quite difficult and tedious, but I think one I need to get better at, because generally I've been finding that the more time I spend looking at the photos that I've taken and considering them carefully, the better I get at actually taking photos. I also did a darkroom course at a place in East London not so long ago, which was amazing. but just constantly remind you of how much there is to learn, how many different levels of skills there are within it. Like I said, from scanning to then developing to shooting for the initial photo. There's just so much, but it's so interesting, and for me it's just been like a hobby and something that just keeps on giving back, and I'm really lucky that I can incorporate it into my work. But really, I just love it and recommend it to anybody. So I hope this has been helpful. Please leave any questions in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you, or if you have any feedback or anything that you would want to share with people that you think I've overlooked, then please leave it there so that other people can see. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.